Now, not too long ago, I made a very bold statement saying that Solo Leveling was the king of fantasy manhwa, and I don't think anything could touch it, or would, for a while. Well, I've just been on a 2-day binge reading the beginning after the end, and I honestly am lost for words. I genuinely believe I've created an addiction that I can no longer satisfy. And to be perfectly honest, I have no one to blame but myself. Oi, next time you find something you like, read it in moderation, idiot. Pull self-control aside, the beginning after the end is now in contention for my personal favourite manhwa of all time, meaning it's better than all the manhwa I've read and provides the necessary excitement and hype to be considered on the same level as Solo Leveling. The story begins before the beginning, hence the title.
No shit, Sherlock.
We are initially introduced to King Grey, a man with power, wealth and prestige. The world he lives in is governed by martial ability, and whoever has strength pulls the strings of the world, and that was King Grey. However, through some unfortunate events, King Grey is murdered and is reincarnated as Arthur Leywin, but instead of being reincarnated in adult form, which we are all used to by now, he's instead reincarnated as an infant with all his memories still intact. Here is where he gets to start again. Instead of being a king and having to deal with assassins 24/7 and walking the lonely path of a king, he gets a chance not only at life, but also he gets a chance to cherish his loved ones, a part of life that was alien to him as King Grey. The next couple of phases of his life go as you would expect, because he's starting as an infant, he must learn to crawl, walk and then run. However, in the world he has been reincarnated in, there is an extra force in nature, magic. Originally in his world, he was able to control the energy that flowed within his body as a means of amplifying physical attacks. However, this flow of energy had no outward appearance and was only able to flow within the body. In the old world, it was known as ki. However, in this new world, ki is another word for magic, and Arthur, our main protagonist, realizes this at an early age. As an infant filled with memories of his past, he was able to make the connection and simply apply what he knew about ki to magic. This caused him to be able to awaken magic powers at a much earlier age than most people, meaning he was already set to be a prodigy. Now, understandably at this point, it does sound like the general isekai story. However, it's a slight variation in the fact that the person we are following had everything in his life: strength, wealth and power. Even though he was murdered, I am genuinely used to seeing these type of protagonists have severely below average lives, but the simple fact that we are following a king allows for some very interesting situations to transpire. In this manhwa, there are a lot of time skips that allow for faster progression of the story, and every time Arthur grows, he always has moments where he reminds us that yes, he was actually a king. I mean, even as a child, he was able to emit pressure that even terrified adults and makes them even wonder if he's even just a kid. The manhwa does a great job at keeping you conscious of the fact that Arthur was originally a king by showcasing how dignified and direct Arthur can be at times. He even had the audacity and opened his mouth and challenged the current king's authority, and he was barely even 10. Arthur doesn't just take part, he plays to win, and that's what makes this manhwa amazing. The main character isn't just trying to get by and live his life hunting monsters. Because of his kingly past, each step Arthur takes is with purpose and conviction. He knows what he wants and is now able to understand that there is more to life than just being king. Arthur now has a family that he cares deeply for and wants to protect at all costs. The interesting thing about this manhwa is that after being introduced to the main character's parents, they don't just become characters you are simply just aware of. They play an active role in how Arthur deals with his life and how he thinks about his future, which is very interesting to see. Personally, if I had to give an honest choice and pick between Solo Leveling and the beginning after the end, I would honestly pick the latter. Even though I may be suffering from recency bias, I still can't get over the sheer enjoyment of consuming the series. The fight scenes were absolutely amazing, and the progression of our talented main protagonist was reasonable, and there was no ridiculous protect my friend moments. It was pure good old-fashioned hard work mixed in with a bit of luck. The series does have some very likable characters, and it also does have some generic characters, like a scumbag noble who betrays his party members and uses his royal lineage to escape punishment. Now, I won't harp on that point much further, however, just know the main protagonist has some scores to settle, and this part of the story does affect how he moves around in the world, because he must now maintain two identities to keep him and his family safe, simply because he doesn't have enough power and influence to make a difference. Another interesting part is the main character's love interest. Now, it does sometimes get hard to remember that even though Arthur is physically 12, he's actually mentally 30 years plus, so having a love interest would be weird, right? Well, in this case, I disagree. In Mushoku Tensei, the love interest part was handled a little poorly. I found myself being disappointed that the main character would decide to be a creep instead of showing some conscious effort to address the elephant in the room. However, in the beginning of the end, the man was actually very conscious of the mental age gap between Arthur's main love interest and even some side love interest. Instead of Arthur getting all excited and rambunctious, he addresses his love interest like an older brother, and he even asked himself if he's a criminal when he's actually done nothing wrong. I believe this is most likely the best way to get the average reader familiar with the premise of a love interest for this type of story. Me personally, I hope they go somewhere with it and don't make it awkward and weird, which they've been doing a great job at. Well, one thing's for sure, the beginning after the end is filled with moments of action and adventure, and even has one major unanswered question that I've chosen to leave out of this video, in the hopes of forcing you to read it yourself. All in all, it just goes to show that the fantasy genre will always be full of wonder.